A man's character is defined by his resolve to do what's right, even in the face of adversity. Unknown author. All right. Good morning. Welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. All right, folks, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty this morning. I literally clicked the audio button and then it just wasn't delivering. So I don't know what was going on there, but I think we're good to go now. So if somebody in the chat could say whether or not everything is functional as it's supposed to be, that would be super duper fabulous. So we'll see. So just let me know before we get started. Hopefully we don't have to do anything like shut the show down. All right, what's going on here? Why are these windows? Okay, so we've got this window here. Okay, I think we're good. It's looking like everything is working. So I'm seeing Keith over there on YouTube is saying that there's audio. So I think we're good. I think we are good now. Except for, oh my goodness, I'm showing my bald head. Hold on, let me fix this. Like there's a video of me like walking up the stairs, grabbing my cap and then putting it on, and then somehow it managed to be off. Anyway, all right. So okay. Chat says we're good. So we've got that taken care of. So apologies for that, folks. The weird thing is, and I think I mentioned this in my stream that I did that's premium currently. I like did this whole stream where I said, here's all my setup, here's everything that I click on, here's what I do, here's the order which I do it in, here's why I do it. I went and divulged it all. Was it last weekend or weekend before? It was the weekend before. Last weekend I was in Atlanta. And one of the things that I pointed out is that there's two little buttons on the bottom of the screen in Rumble. One is for the camera, one is for the microphone. And when I click the button for the camera, like I can see that I'm on the screen. So it's like it's a visual verification that everything is working. But I don't actually have an audio verification that everything is working. Like if I click the button and I think that I've clicked it and I miss it, I don't realize that there's still that little itty bitty line that's going through the microphone. If I don't notice that, then I might think that the audio has been selected. Now, what I used to use StreamYard, and StreamYard was different. When I would create the episode and then I would log into the episode, the first thing that pops up is a picture that shows like my screen or the camera view. And then there's a little volume bar. And then I can just be like, test, test, test. And I can see the volume bar go up and down. So before I even get into the show to click on go live, I've already verified visually that the audio is working. That is not the same in Rumble. So we will have to like ping Rumble and be like, hey, perhaps you make an adjustment to make it a little bit more clear when the audio is or is not working. Because even if I click the button, like right now it's clicked, but if there was some weird error where there was no sound coming through, I still wouldn't be able to tell. So for all intent, and I think that's happened a couple of times where I have clicked the button, it visually looks like the button is, the audio is going through, but there's no volume bar, there's no audio bar going up and down that says, okay, I can visually look and say, yep, it is receiving the actual audio. So anyway, just wanted to point that out to folks. So if when we do have these problems, it generally is, I like some cases I've literally forgotten to click the button. But in other cases, most of the time, I've actually clicked it, but it would seem like I just didn't realize that I didn't click it quite right, or maybe I clicked the side of it and I didn't actually click the button. Right. It's one of those things. So anyway, that's where we are. uh, yeah. So my VA lady says, was that the stream that you were muted for 30 minutes? Yes. That is the stream for the first 30 minutes. I was muted because I thought that I'd clicked the button, and I didn't. And I'm not even sure how I realized it. Um, I can't remember. I something triggered me, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, I haven't had any audio for the last 30 minutes." That was pretty embarrassing. Um, but that's the way it goes, right? And here's the fun part. I'm over 500 episodes in, and I did a stream where one quarter of it was silent. So I'm just saying, if you want to get into podcasting or streaming, perhaps you get comfortable with making mistakes. Just saying. By the way, I just want to throw a little shout out to my VA lady. If you like this show, check her out. Check her out on socials. See if maybe she's got a service that can help you. She does a lot of work to help keep this show going. Right. Like I know sometimes I joke and I poke fun at her. I'm like, oh, she's got that boot on my neck, blah, blah, blah. That's my fun way of saying she keeps this show going. Right. Like that's basically what I'm trying to tell you. But I want to tell you in an unambiguous way right now that she is absolutely instrumental in keeping this show going. I don't always take the ideas that are given to me because that's just the nature of being a podcast, bro. Um, is that you don't always do that. But at the end of the day, I have to give credit where credit is due. And she's constantly checking everything. Like if there's a word misspelled somewhere, she'll be like, so send me a screenshot. You'll be like, yo, why you got this word misspelled, right? Like just whatever. Or like, hey, I saw your video that you just posted, maybe your YouTube short, and you need to move the text. The text is over your face or something, whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of work. So check her out. Um, let's see. My VA lady, when you throw a link in the screen in the comments, I will post it up on the I'll post it up on the screen for people to see. So, all right, today, what do we got going on today? Moving some screens around here so that things are where they're supposed to be. Let's see. Okay, I see what's going on. This one. Okay, why are my screens here? There we go. And this one over here. Okay, I got things that I want in a specific spot. Did I get it right? No. Oh, that's so weird. Okay. Okay, whatever. I see what's going on here. So I'm monkeying around with some of my windows because I like my windows in a very specific spot, and they're not cooperating today. So today must be a day where just technical difficulties. But anyway, all right, what do we got for today? Let's get into that. How about we talk about what we have for today? As you know, Fridays are Dad Talk Day. So I do one of two things. I either have a dad on and we talk about what's important to him in the context of being a dad, right? So maybe he wants to talk about how excited he is to, with his new child, and he's looking forward to, being a coach, which I had a dad on that did that, right? He wanted to talk about his sports was his big thing, and he was just excited to have a son to share the experience of sports with, right? And be a coach and all that good stuff. Cool. That's awesome. Other dads, maybe musicians, right? So they might come on and be like, "Man, I can't wait to teach my son the guitar, the tuba, whatever." And other dads may want to come on and just talk about an issue that's kind of related to the family. Like I had one dad come on, and he talked about his challenges with mental health. Right, he had bipolar, and he was like, "Look, it's a challenge for me to be a good father and to be a good husband because I have this affliction." And so he just came on. And he talked about it. I've had other dads come on, and I had two dads come on and talk about how their children, I think they were both daughters, reached out and said, "Dad, we're trans." Well, not we're, but I'm trans. And so both of those dads took a different path. And so we discussed that, right? Whatever dads want to talk about. Why do I do that? I'm raising dad voices. When I don't have a dad, I talk about dad related stuff, right? This is Dad Talk Day. Why do I do that? I want to raise dad voices. I want to raise the profile of being a dad. I want to challenge men to be good fathers and good husbands. And More importantly, I simply want to elevate them and say, society, men are a good thing. You want good husbands, you want good fathers, expect the best, give the best. I meant to, I didn't, I ran out of time this morning. I was going to grab the clip, but if you remember the video from, if you remember the movie Starship Troopers, there's a scene where the is he like a sergeant? I don't know, but he's the leader of this like a more elite group, and they just like Starship Troopers was about humans going to war with bugs out in the in outer space, and so they had just won this battle against these bugs, and so they're on this planet, and now they're celebrating, and so the officer or sergeant or whatever rank he was, he pulls open this box and it's got all these goodies in it. It's got like, musical instruments and footballs and drinks and snacks and all this good stuff for all his troops. And he said, I expect the best, I give the best. Right. And I think as society, that's what we need to be toward men. Like I see people out there and they're just beating up on feminists and all that. And there's a time and a place to push back on that. But at the end of the day, if you want to raise, if you want a society that really respects men, then you don't beat up on other people. You simply elevate voices and you expect the best and you give the best. So that's what we're trying to do here. So I want to talk about so what I'll do is I'll talk about stuff and sometimes I'll criticize dads. Sometimes I'll not the dads that come on the show, but like when there's no dad, sometimes I'll show a video or some things and I'll be critical. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, this is awesome. This is beautiful. I love this. Right. And so, we're just all over the place. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're raising dad voices. We are bringing men back to where they should be in this society, both in expectation and what we deliver. So today I want to show you a clip and I'm going to be critical of a man. So this might be a little weird because a lot of times you see these like reaction videos where it's like it's like this portrait on the phone, right? And you watching it and you see the person, they're large and they're watching another video that's smaller in the screen and then they're critiquing that person. Well, I'm going to do that same thing, but it's going to be like a critique of a critique. It's going to be like a reaction of a reaction video. Okay. So we're getting deep here, right? Like this is we're getting into the layers. So let me play this video, and I will give you some of my thoughts because I think that the time for a man to be a man and do the right thing is always right, regardless. So let's take a look. Let's watch that video, and then by the way, after the break, we're gonna dial it down. We're gonna end on a lighter note, a fun note. So let's watch.
Nothing will make me lose respect for a man faster than to be in the presence of a man and he see me struggling as a woman or see any woman struggling and he won't even take his hands out of his pockets or lift his hands to help a lady. Zero respect for men like that. I was just now in a setting struggling to lift an office chair that was really heavy to get it from one place to the next place. And I had to lift it and carry it a short distance. Two men stood by in executive positions and watched me struggle to lift.
What the hell is an executive position? I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so an executive position would be like the C level, like if you're a CEO or you're COO or you're a whatever, right? Like there's various positions depending on the the company. So an executive position is a man that has some level of significant authority. In other words, if you're at McDonald's, an executive position would be like the general manager, the district manager, right? Like it's not going to be your shift lead. That's not an executive position, presumably, right? Like we can see. This is my first thing. Like it's like I don't even know what that. Really, you don't know? Like, have you not worked a job, man? Come on. Like I get it. There are women out there. There are men out there who make all kind of videos, and sometimes we can roll our eyes at them. And when it's time to be critical, we should have some good judgment. How about that? So let's continue.
that chair and watch me struggle to carry that chair to where it needed to be to return it to less than, it was a very short distance back to its proper place. Zero respect. I have zero respect for men who will watch a woman struggle. If men will stand by and watch you struggle, even in lifting a chair, they will stand back and watch you struggle in other areas of your life.
Okay, so she kind of has a point, right? Like we can judge, and it's not always accurate, right? Maybe a man was just kind of not paying attention one day, and didn't really think. Like I've had that happen, right? Like sometimes my wife is like, "Dude, you're just gonna stand there," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry," and it's just I wasn't in the moment, I wasn't present, right? But it wasn't like I was just standing there watching her, like, sucks to be you. Like there are times where we're just kind of not in the loop, right? And I get that. But she is correct in that if a man is deliberately watching you struggle, then perhaps he's not going to be reliable in other areas where it really matters. And this is important because when I get on social media, depending on which social media, there seem to be a lot of young guys out there that have a really negative attitude about relationships. And so I look at it and I say, you should be always doing the right thing no matter what, right? And the right person will come along for you. That's my view. I mean, there are 8 billion people on the planet. So the idea that there's a woman or a man, depending on who you are, out there for you, like that seems pretty reasonable. You know what I mean? Like there's 8 billion people, someone somewhere. In fact, and we're not going to get into we're not going to dive too deep, but just to make the point, there are probably multiple someones out there that you can find, right? And I only mean that not necessarily all at the same time, but I'm just saying like, you know, there's probably somebody in this state, probably somebody in this country that you could hit it off with, right? And it's whichever one basically that you come across first. This is, and I say this because, like, if a man lives happily and then ends up either getting divorced or maybe his wife passes away and then he finds love again later, well, then that clearly illustrates my point. That person didn't just pop out of nowhere. That person has existed, which means that person existed. Like when I'll tell you, my mom passed away in 2016, and my dad got remarried a year and a half, maybe 2 years after that, something like I don't remember how long it was exactly, um, to another woman about his same age, roughly. Okay, which means the entire time that my dad was married to my mom, there was this other woman who he would be able to, in the future, of course, hit it off with. So while he was alive, there were actually at least two known women that he could build a relationship with. You see my point here? And I think this is just a good point because if you're getting frustrated by the dating scene, I want you to realize that there are people out there, and all that really matters is you just kind of got to figure out how to come across those people, get out there and find out where that particular person is. Okay. So if you're a man, and I'm speaking mostly to men here, well, primarily to men. If you're a man and you're looking for somebody, be sure that you are at your best as often as possible because you don't know. Like this woman could be single, right? And that executive person that she was saying watched her struggle, had they come over and helped her with the chair, that might have been the first moment that led to a long-term relationship. That kind of thing actually happens. So you want to be at your best because women are noticing. Let's continue.
When it comes to women, children, and senior citizens, I have a soft place in my heart for those three populations because they are the weakest populations on the face of the earth.
I thought y'all was strong. I thought y'all didn't need men.
Okay. If you want to, like, if you're making a video and you're just making a point, fine. I get that. But I think there's far too many men out there that literally carry this attitude. It's almost like a chip on their shoulder. Like, well, you said you didn't need men, you know? So why are you getting mad at me? Okay, So first of all, unless he's talking like a lot of times what ends up happening is we'll see a video like this and be like, "Oh, you don't need men, right?" That's what you heard from some other woman, not this woman necessarily, right? So this is bad character to say, well, this other woman 10 years ago said, I don't need a man. So therefore, that's what you want, woman who is in distress. No, that is that isn't logical, nor is that good judgment. We need to be judicious and exercise proper judgment as often as we can. Proper judgment would say, yes, this one woman over here might have said, we don't need no man. But this woman over here is struggling, and she didn't say that. So perhaps I should go help her pick up this damn chair. You see where I'm going with this logic? Like this is called good judgment.
To watch a senior citizen, a woman, or a child struggle, and as a man, you do nothing, I have zero respect for any man who will watch a woman struggle and do nothing to help her.
She's right. She is. You you should have no respect if you're just going to sit back and watch. Now, again, we're not talking about the moment where maybe you just weren't paying attention, you weren't being present, maybe you didn't notice. We're not talking about those kind of things. We're talking about like you deliberately observed a woman and then did nothing. I'll give you a story really quickly. Let's take this. Let's go to a story real quick. Um, Years ago, my wife and I went to the grocery store and we pulled in, and I saw a woman trying to change her tire. And I was like, I should go out. I said, you go in. I'm going to go see if this woman needs help. My wife said, okay. So I went over and I was just like, excuse me, ma'am, do you need some help? And man, that woman was so appreciative. She was like, yes, I've been struggling. I don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm dressed in relatively nice clothes. Like a shirt, what I'm wearing now. Didn't matter. I got down and I changed her tire for her and got her on her way. And she was so thankful for that. You know, it never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind to be like, ain't that what you wanted? You're a strong feminist woman, right? I don't know this woman. I just see a woman that appears to need some help. That's it. It was pretty simple. And I went and offered my help. So she appreciated it, right? Like that is the kind of character that you should have at all times. Now, if I had went to her and I said, excuse me, ma'am, would you like some help? And if she said, I am not some weak damsel in distress. Get away from me, you terrible woman hating man who thinks I'm whatever. Like, let's just say that she berated me and went berserk, right? Okay, fine. I did what I should do to maintain quality character. That's it. I offered. You said no, right? Or, and this, I think this has happened. I can't think of a story, but I'm pretty sure it's happened once or twice. Excuse me, ma'am, would you like some help? Thank you, sir. But I actually got this. I'm good. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. Fine. Right. And that one is more neutral, right? Like no big deal. Like she's got it under control. Maybe she's a grease monkey, right? Maybe she likes working on cars. Like there are some women that are like that. And that's cool too. Like no problem. So I just wanted to kind of point out, like, be of good character at all times. All right, let's go back to our little video here because I think we're going to be a little bit critical of this man in just a moment.
It says volumes about your character.
Yeah, take care of yourselves, King. I mean, just 2 videos ago, I seen 13 different videos of women that was talking about how they don't even like men, how they don't need men, how they can survive without us, decenter men. It's not even a big deal. They don't have no respect for us. And so,
Okay, I'm stopping right here. Stop you, bro. I stop you. I'm not going to call you king because I'm sorry, that attitude isn't king to me. Like, did you hear what he just said? He was like, "Oh, kings, help yourselves," because 2 videos ago I saw all these videos of other women. Okay, but there were other women. Maybe those women had bad attitudes. Maybe this woman doesn't. So you're going to punish this woman who might need help and might want help, might have no negative attitude toward men. You're going to punish her because of some other woman. right? Like, the hell is wrong with you? No, that is not acceptable. That is not being a proper man. And yes, as a bona fide king, I'm the king of the castle. My wife will tell you, I am the king in this house. Okay. And I do what the queen lets me do. But I do the right thing, and I try to judge individuals on their individual character. So yes, this woman over here may be a terrible, nasty harpy. This woman over here is not that woman. Do not punish her because of this one. Would this man like to be punished? He's a black man. Would he like to be punished for some other black guy's bad behavior? Would because basically here's what he's telling you. This is I'm gonna throw it out there. This man is basically like women fatigue. Have you heard this whole black fatigue thing? It's retarded. But people are like, oh, black fatigue. They'll see some black person doing something negative, and then they will superimpose that upon all black people. He's doing the exact same thing. He's like, oh, these women over here, they were terrible and nasty towards men, in speech. So therefore, this woman that's complaining about needing help, screw her too. He's basically saying, without actually saying it, he's like, I got woman fatigue. What you have is laziness. What you have is bad character, right? You should watch this video and be like, hey, if I was there, I would have helped you with this chair, right? Period. And I agree with you. Like, if a man's not going to help you when you're struggling, maybe he's got bad character. Now there might be a situation where you can't, and we'll get to that in a moment, right? So, like, again, this is not cut and dried, black and white, 100%. Like, if you don't help a woman, you just must be bad character, right? What we're really getting at here is the attitude toward that. Like, if you just had surgery, like, let's just say you had a heart attack and you still got the fresh wound on your chest from when they had to open it up and correct you. You should probably not be lifting a chair, right? However, to show the good character, you could say, "Excuse me, do you need some help? I would love to help you. I just had surgery. I can't lift. Let me find a man." You could do that, right? Like, there are ways to make sure that you show good character. This right here already, he's not. He's not showing good quality character. And I could easily go, yeah, 2 videos ago I saw black people doing this. Okay, and all right, let's continue.
As a result, you are getting in return, because men didn't just get like this. I think that y'all are confused about the fact that guys no longer have character. No, they have character, but we protect those that we're responsible for now. We no longer putting ourselves um, under the guillotine in order to try to Captain Save them for women that's lost respect for us as a whole, as a general, that is taking advantage of all of the benefits that came along with being built, this country being built for your convenience, and then you benefiting from us, and then you taking us, through all of the systems and all of the issues and all of the problems and all of the family court. Now men have smartened up. They said, all right, you got it. We're gonna finally give you what you want, and then you can take care of it, and then all of a sudden you lost your respect for us. Well, guess what? We don't care.
Okay.
And
No. Stop right there. Where's my little button? Here it is. Oh, there's always an audio issue. I'm going to try that one more time. All right. Ready? Here we go. Stop right there. No, we do care. Us men that are proper kings, we do care. Right? I am not the kind of man he just described. Nor will I tolerate or settle for other men being that way. You act like a man always, period. Now, this video, it came from social media, from X. So let me show you some of the comments, and then we're gonna circle back around, and we're gonna talk about this attitude of like, hey, we've checked out. In fact, I think I saw a comment in here that Liberty Lady pointed out. Larry Sharp talks about how 8 million men have checked out. They're called NEAT, not in education, employment, or training. They're not in relationships, not having sex, not working, etc. That sounds pretty bad, not having anyway. So like, that sounds like a pretty miserable life, to be honest with you. I don't accept that. And I will not be raising my son to be like that. But let me show you some of the responses to this video, because you might think, okay, well, maybe it's just one guy, right? Maybe I'm just being a little bit absurd. So here we are. Here's here's some of the comments, and I'll read them. Did y'all hear about the girl that was choking in a corporate meeting and a guy stepped in and did the Heimlich maneuver on her and dislodged the obstruction? She later filed a complaint on him with the HR department that he touched her inappropriately. That's very interesting. This is from somebody named T1 Texas. And then they followed up with another comment. They said, for at least 30 years, I heard, we don't need no man, or men ain't crap. Fast forward to 2025, and this is the physical manifestation of that. Okay? So let's go back real quick. So he says, did you hear about this girl that was choking in a corporate meeting? Okay. Well, as it turns out, I was able to find that video. So let's watch it. Or at least a video that seems like it's the one they're referencing. So let's
He
check it out.
performs Heimlich, but then gets called into HR. Yes, that's what happened to my brother. So he works for a company that has an on-site cafeteria on campus. Okay, so it works out great for many of the employees. Him and his team, before a presentation, went down for lunch. I think it was a team about 6 to 8. I don't remember the exact number. They went down for lunch, and one of the girls on the team started coughing really bad. Everyone at the table was like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes, yes, yes," until she did this whole motion, right? And then she starts pointing at her throat. So obviously that's the motion of I'm choking. Okay. And so my brother quickly gets up because he was sitting next to her and does the Heimlich, which then dislodges whatever that was stuck in her throat, food or some sort. And so she turns around, she say, "Hey, thank you so much." And then one of the other girls took her to the bathroom. He thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. 2 days later, he gets called into HR. He's a little bit confused about what's going on. They stated that there's an investigation open on him for SA. Apparently, she reported him for SA because she felt the touch during the Heimlich was inappropriate. Their bodies were too close, and that she could feel his private. They took his statement. They said they're going to investigate. So he said it took about a week or so. They called him back in, and they said that he was cleared.
All right. So he got cleared of that. Now here's the catch. He did the right thing, period. He should do the right thing the next time, period. That's called being a man. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, DL, what if I get in trouble? What if this? Okay. Remember at the beginning of that video where the woman said, like, hey, if it's in this small thing, maybe you're not very reliable. Okay. So if you are afraid to do the Heimlich on a choking woman because she might be like, I felt his pecker. Okay. Like if you're afraid of that, should we trust that if it's a life or death situation somewhere else that you're going to step up, or are you just going to find some other excuse and be like, oh, I better not do that because, maybe they'll be mad at me. Maybe the police will get me. Maybe this, maybe that. Right. This is what I'm talking about. Like if you're not going to do the right thing, and the Heimlich maneuver is something pretty, like, it's serious to the person choking, but to the person that's performing it, it's not really that serious. Your life and that moment is not at threat. But what if it is? What if there's a situation where if you help a person, you put your own life at significant risk? Well, if you're unwilling to do the Heimlich, I have no trust that you're going to jump into into the water and try to save somebody from, I don't know, a shark or something. Okay, that's probably exaggerative, but I don't have a hypothetical to present in the moment here. But follow the line of thinking here. If there is an event where you have to put yourself at risk in that moment just to try to save that person or help that person, right? I don't believe that you're going to do it. And I've talked about this all the time. What kind of society do we want? Now, let me tell you, one of the reasons that the first and foremost reason that I would be willing to help somebody is because it's the right thing to do. Full stop. Don't need to go any further than that. I do the right thing, If you see a child drowning, you should try to help. Period. That's the right thing to do. You shouldn't stop and be like, man, what if the parents get mad at me? The hell with the parents. There's a child drowning. Save them, right? If you can't swim or if you don't know how to, pull somebody out of the water, that's fine. Throw them a rope, call 911, do something. Do not let people come to harm because you're afraid of other people. That's not acceptable. But here's a follow-up reason. Because this is one I hear a lot. People will go, I have a family I want to go home to. Me too. I have a son and I have a wife. Almost said daughter. I do not have a daughter. I have a son and I have a wife. And guess what? I am not always with them, which means I am relying in part on other men to potentially assist them if they are in a situation when I am not present. I firmly believe what goes around comes around. You help other people, then you can kind of expect, in a sense, that other people will help you. I help out some woman that I see because number one, it's the right thing to do, but also number two, because like, hey, that's somebody's mom or sister or wife, right? Or just friend, whatever. That person is somebody important to somebody else. And you know what would be nice? If that person got to go home too. And you know what also would be nice? Is if it wasn't me and some random woman that needs assistance, but it was my wife that needed assistance and some random man decided I'm going to help this woman. Because then that means my wife comes home to me. You see how this works, men? You build the society that you want. You don't whine and cry. Now, the guy wasn't technically whining, like he was, not in the common sense of the term, like he wasn't whining. But basically, that's what he was doing. He was basically whining about women rather than saying, men, kings, you do the right thing. And if you get in trouble, then other kings will step up on your behalf. That's the world we should be creating. I want to show you another video clip. Remember Daniel Penny? Remember that guy? The guy in the subway, the Marine. He's sitting on the subway in New York. And then Jordan Neely comes in, acting very erratic, threatening people. And so he gets up and he puts them in a chokehold. It goes, unfortunately, in a very negative way. Jordan Neely died. He goes on trial. When he was arrested, when Daniel Penny was arrested, many men online pointed to that and they said, see, this is why we don't get involved. By the way, we call that whining. During his trial, people would get online and go, see, that's why we don't get involved. After his trial, though, people had a lot less to say, except for Daniel Penny. Here's what he said. He was interviewed, and here's what he said in retrospect. This is after he was arrested, after he was on trial for a long time, and was basically at risk of going to jail for helping somebody. Here's what he said.
Will you take the subway again?
Yeah, and I have been. I believe in New York. I love New York.
Knowing what you know now, Danny, if you faced the same situation again, would you do it again?
Yeah, totally. I would not be able to live with myself if I didn't do anything in that situation and someone got hurt. I would feel guilty for the rest of my life. And I think I'm in a position, and all people, if they're in a position to help, should always help. I think that's the New York thing to do. It's the American thing to do. And yeah, I would.
All right. Daniel Penny is an absolute true king. He is the role model that you should be looking at. Now, I want to point out some things. Okay. This does not mean rushing into danger recklessly. It's not what we're saying. There are situations where you might say, this is not appropriate for me to get involved. And I'm just going to make up some, kind of crazy hypotheticals just to kind of illustrate the point. But let's say that you're walking along, you're whistling a tune, you're like, you're just happy go lucky. And then you see a woman that's being attacked by like 7 guys, and they got baseball bats and they got chains. Maybe a couple of them got knives. If you said, I didn't jump in to physically save the woman because I would have just got stabbed and killed and I would have not helped the woman whatsoever, I would be like, okay, fair enough. That kind of makes sense. You are no good to somebody if you go to try to help them and you just simply become the next victim. Now, that's different than saying, hey, there was a risk. That's just saying, like, look, the risk was so ridiculous and so obvious that it was unwise for me to do that. So in that case, you should call the police, take a video, call the police first, right? Maybe take a video, take a screenshot or a screenshot. I mean, like take a photo or something to catch, a picture of the guys or something like that. But you should be doing something. Run into a building, call the police, go grab some other men. If there's a whole bunch of other men, maybe go grab 5 or 10 of them and, whatever, something. You should be doing something. And the reason that you wouldn't jump in is because you made a deliberate choice based on the best course of action. Okay. But when you don't get involved physically, it should never be because of feminism. You're afraid of punishment, what people might think of you, or that somebody might sue you. Like those kind of reasons are unacceptable. It should only be a no, and I mean a physical intervention. It should only be no if that is the best decision in the moment. Back in episode 321, Afterthoughts with Maj Toure of an Almost Fight, I described how I almost got into a fight with a dad at a park. I took my son to the park and I was just chilling there watching him play with the other kids. And then all of a sudden this altercation breaks out. This dad is berating a woman. I'm not going to go into the whole story, but he's basically berating a woman. So I'm like, all right, my son's at a safe distance. He's over there. He's playing. I'll just sit here and just keep, keep an eye on the situation, right? He's yelling at the woman. You want to make a judicious decision on when you interject yourself. Now, Maj and I talked and we determined that some of the actions that I did were not the best, right? And that's why I had him on the show, because what I wasn't trying to say is you should not get involved. What I was trying to say is if you're going to get involved, there are good ways to do it and there are bad ways to do it. There are good ways to get involved and to actually be helpful. And then there are ways for which you could make the situation worse, or you could just bring yourself to unnecessary harm and still not help out another person, right? We don't want to do the latter. We want to do the former. We want to make sure that if we're getting involved, we're doing it correctly. And Maj pointed out I think it was his grandma, but he said his grandma had a saying that she would rather people say, there she goes versus there she lays, right? There, and so for me, being a man means being judicious, deliberate, and courageous to do the right thing when it matters. Period. That's what you do. And you might make a decision to say, this is not a situation that I get involved in, right? Maybe it's not, maybe you judge the situation and it's not rising to the level of requiring intervention, right? Maybe if, and it doesn't have to always be an altercation. If somebody is drowning and you might say, I can't swim, so therefore your decision to not jump in and go and try to pull them out is a wise decision, right? You're making it based on, all right, what can I do to properly assist this person? But you might throw them a rope. If there's no rope, you might throw them a stick. If there's nothing that you can throw them, you can't swim, then you might go try to find somebody, right? There are any number of things that you can try to do. And so being a man doesn't mean putting yourself necessarily at risk. What it means is You're not going to decline to help somebody for a crappy reason. Some of the reasons that I pointed out. One of them would be, well, I saw some women online and they were talking trash about men. So therefore, you get what you get. Okay, great. And so the woman that you decline to help, what if she is a rabid conservative and hates feminism? You ever think about that? No, you didn't, because you were too busy worrying about your own self, being selfish, self centered. Basically, you weren't being a proper man. That's what happened. Okay, so I've said my piece there. Hopefully, you get the point. Again, I'll repeat it. Being a man means being judicious, deliberate, and courageous to do the right thing when it matters. That's what it means to be a man. So if you're a man, that's your guideline. All right, let's go and check out some comments. And then after the comments, we will go to intermission. And then we will come back and we'll end on a lighter note. Right? Let's do that. Let's see. I believe I asked my VA lady to throw up some ways to reach out to her. I was talking about her earlier and saying, hey, this is a great value add to the show. If you've got a show or some other things, maybe you're trying to do some content creation of some kind, you can reach out to her. So here, she posted her stuff in the chat. Message me on Facebook, Instagram, or X. My VA lady, call text 904-372-8832. She's on Rumble, YouTube, same handle, my VA lady. So go find her. Email address listed under her profiles as well. So go find her and reach out to her and see if you see if there's some sort of if she's got some services that will be a benefit to you. All right. Keith says this might be a workplace, not my problem job thing instead of a lack of chivalry. I don't need no man. That's also possible. So the SA story, that might not be anything like, oh, man is bad. That might be just a woman trying to collect a paycheck. And that has always existed, right? And I don't mean just women, but men too. But people trying to exploit a situation for financial gain, that's a story as old as time, right? And that doesn't change doing the right thing. That just means that you have to be judicious and make the right decision, right? Like if you don't know, let me make an exaggerative point. If somebody is choking and you tried the Heimlich and that's not working and they're getting ready to die, right? That's not the time for you to break out your pocket knife and like a straw and think you're going to perform a tracheotomy on this person. Okay? Because if you do that, yeah, that could be a bad decision and that might be worth suing you for. Okay? But you have to, this is why I said you have to be judicious and deliberate. Can you do the Heimlich? Most everybody should be able to do the Heimlich, right? So you can do the Heimlich maneuver. Should you be doing tracheotomies on the fly, in a public setting when you're not a doctor and have zero training? No, you should not. It's nice to watch on TV. In real life, there are limitations. So you have to know your limitations. That's part of being judicious and deliberate, right? And that will help limit people getting a paycheck from you. But it could easily be that somebody's just trying to collect money. Like they saw a situation like, oh, maybe I can get paid. A lot of people, like it's unfortunately a reality in our society. Let's see. Yes, Keith says people getting offended when you show them respect irks me. Yes. A fun story, real quick. Years and years and years ago, I went on a date with a woman, and I opened the door for her everywhere we went, and she literally made fun of me later for opening the door for her. So clearly, that woman got left behind. So just want to point that out. It wasn't really a date. It was more like we just went out to the movies, but it didn't materialize. And there's some other reasons why we're not going to get into all the details. But that alone would have been sufficient to say, this isn't going to work. Let's see. Time Surfing Alien says, not fighting a shark for anyone. Well, maybe my dog. That's fair. That's fair. If you're like, look, I am not a shark fighter. I will lose this fight. I get it. And that's part of, that's where the judicious and deliberate comes in. You're like, look, perhaps I should go call for help, like, again, so it's not always risking yourself. It's not always jumping in. It depends. It just should never be for some trivial reason. Like, What if they sue me later? Let's see. What else we got in here? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's all we got for the comments. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to intermission. We'll be back, and then we will end this on a little bit lighter note. And since we're talking about men, let's use this intermission video. We'll be right back.
Let us make man. This is the scripture where God was talking about creating the human. And when he talked about creating the human, he said, let us make man. And for me, the us in let us make man entails and implies to me that I should be assisting God with making men. And this is where the X for Boys comes into play. This is the new man-making machine in Albany, Georgia. We started the X for Boys program in January of 2019. Albany, Georgia is one of the poorest cities in the nation, and also Albany, Georgia has one of the highest crime rates in the nation. And so I took it upon myself to curb that by working with young men and boys in the community and teaching them how to work in the skilled trades, such as working on cars, fixing houses, simple home improvement, simple brake repair, oil changes, plumbing, anything of that nature, to try and help boys actually use their hands.
I appreciate King Randall for taking the time out of his life to give us young men the opportunity to do things that can help us be better men and better people in life.
The X for Boys is creating men that'll be self-sufficient, that will be able to protect their women and children, and will be able to go out and earn things for themselves. We do not teach victimhood. There is nobody holding us down. I am teaching the boys that they can go out and get whatever it is that they want when they want it to. They have the same Father as Jesus, and that is God. And so they are able to go and do whatever they want to. The scripture says, greater is the God that is in me than the God that's in the world. So it's up to us to teach them about the God that's in themselves and to create everything that they want. Let us make man. Follow us on social media at New Emerging King, and you can go to the xforboys.org for our website.
Hey, Liberty fam, do me a favor. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, I want you to hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. By the way, if you want to support the show, head over to libertydad.locals.com and sign up. For $5, you can be part of this show. There, I'll engage supporters of the show. We'll discuss topics that you want me to talk about, response videos that you would like to see, or anything related to the show. And I'll even have a monthly subscribers only episode. By the way, I'm always looking for dads to join me for Dad Talk. That's my series where I invite everyday dads on to talk about what's important to them in the context of being a dad. No argument, no debate, and dads choose the topic. It's my way of raising dad voices. If you're a dad or you know a dad who has something to say, let's get connected. Episodes air live on Friday mornings or Friday evenings, whichever works best for dads. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, we're back. You know, I just realized that when I showed you some of the comments from social media, I actually only showed you like 2, and there was like 5 or 6. We're not going to go back. We're done with that. But I just wanted to point out I got a little sidetracked because I was showing you those comments, and then I followed up with that video, and then I just kind of went on. So fun times. Anyway. This is probably one of those times where I didn't need to tell you, but I just, whatever. It's part of the relationship that we have, folks. All right, so I got some dad cues here, 2 dad cues, and then I'm gonna tell you a cool story, and then we're gonna head out for the day and enjoy our weekend. So let's see, where do we want to go here? Yes, perfect, right here. So what I like to do sometimes is I like to go to a dad group on Facebook. I'm in a couple of dad groups, and I just look through and I see what is it that they're saying. And so, and in this particular case, I'm going to put out, now these aren't super duper like I don't think there's going to be any problem with posting these because I didn't clear their names out. So that's fine. But normally I try to obscure the names, especially if it's something kind of like very personal. But so we'll see. Anyway, so this guy named Matthew, he's like to get into some hobbies. What are the cool dads doing nowadays? Okay, so clearly he wasn't talking to me because he said cool dads. But I'm going to pretend like I'm a cool dad. One of my hobbies that I like to do is woodworking. And I think woodworking is a great hobby for a man because I believe that men, particularly, they need to work with their hands from time to time. And, like even if you're an office guy, sometimes you got to go work with your hands. And I think woodworking offers that nice balance because, not all, like I also like to go out and work in the yard, but I can understand where a lot of men, especially where you live, like if you live in a hot climate, you might be like, why would I want to go out in the heat, and work? And that's fine. Like whatever I do. And I think woodworking is a great hobby because um, the interesting thing about woodworking is depending on what you're doing will depend on the level of precision that you need. So if you're making like, let's say that you want to make a small box with drawers. Well, your precision is going to have to be on point, right? You don't have a lot of room for error. Otherwise your drawers may not open or shut or even go in, right? You quickly run into problems. On the other hand, let's say that you build like a big playhouse for your kids, right? Or maybe you build like a little jungle gym inside or outside. Well, the precision there is not as strict. You have a lot more flexibility. So if you're off an eighth of an inch, 16th of an inch, it's no big deal, right? Probably still going to go together, probably going to be just as functional, and probably nobody will even notice. Like you might even be, depending on the situation, you might be able to point out and say, yeah, this is a quarter of an, not a quarter of an inch, half, that's even worse. This is an eighth of an inch off. And somebody might be told that looking at it and still not notice it, right? Whereas with something a little smaller that requires more precision, you won't even have to tell them because they'll be like, the drawer doesn't close. You'll be like, yeah, it's because it's an eighth of an inch off, right? Or even a 16th of an inch could cause that problem. So I like it's kind of like this fun hobby where you're working and you're trying to determine what level of precision that you need. And then from there, you can, solve the problems. The other thing about woodworking, I'm going to butcher this comment, but some of the woodworkers that I follow on YouTube and I watch, they've said this multiple times. They said woodworking is not about um, never making a mistake. It's about how well you can hide the mistakes that you do make because you will make them. I mean, I think they say it in a little bit better way, but that's basically the point. And I have done projects where I get like halfway through and I realized I made a huge mistake. I'm like, oh, and then I have to try to figure out like, all right, how do I solve this? How do I fix it? And then move on. And I think that's kind of fun, right? And the cool thing is I can go out and I can work on a project and let's say the family's driving me crazy, as they do, right? Like we can be honest here. Like we should love our families, but we should also recognize that other people from time to time will get on your nerves. And so then you have this thing that you can go and do and you could just work, and what's cool about it is the project can sit there for a long time unless you need it for something like when I built my mailbox. Right? Like I needed the mailbox. Well, sort of. I had a mailbox and I wanted to build a different one because I didn't like the one that I had. So I was building one. So in that particular case, if it took me 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, no big deal. Right. But in some cases, maybe your mailbox, maybe somebody runs over your mailbox and you no longer have one. And so you're like, I'm going to build one. Well, in that particular case, you might have a time constraint. But the cool part about about doing it as a hobby is that you can do it at your leisure when you have time and you can go out there and it's a good break from the world. That's one of the reasons why I like woodworking and I like working in the yard because, I'm on my podcast and then I go over and I work and so I'm on a laptop. I'm looking at screens constantly. And this is my way to get away from a screen. Just get out there and touch something. Like I even have my nifty little, you can tell I've got 2 of these. So that's why one is up here and I was using it for something. And it's just remained up here because I have a second one downstairs. But you can physically touch something. You can look at something. It's not a screen. You can compare, you can measure, you can do all these. So I feel like that is a great hobby. Now there are other hobbies that you can get into that that are not particular for me. Like the old school one, like our parents or maybe even grandparents got into, is they would build huge like little cities with their trains, right? And they would get very elaborate, and they might paint all the characters. They might handcraft the mountains or the bridge or something like that. So there's all these, like, you can do these miniature type projects. And I've considered maybe making some miniatures. The problem that I have is, where would they go? Right? Where would it be, and how big should, like, that's my problem. So I'm like, maybe not. But I've considered it. So that's another cool hobby that you could get into. You could be a video gamer. Like, I know there's social media commentary where some women are like, "Oh, a man that plays video games is no man." Da, 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 da. Like, okay, then that's not the woman for you. Move on, find somebody else, no big deal. As long as your hobby is not creating a problem in your life, then it's fine, right? And there are many things to do. So I just wanted to kind of answer that question, be like, look, my hobby is woodworking. I also like working in the yard. I've got some big plans for my yard that I want to do. Whenever my wife gets a brand new, she buys a house that she's going to flip, right? Or maybe flip, or maybe uses a rental, which, it's not like she buys them like every other week or something. But when she does, one of the first things that I do is I look at the yard, and I'm like, and I see how it's maybe all disheveled and overgrown. And I look and I go, I can fix her. And I mean it. I could actually fix her. And I enjoy being able to go out and then just trim things up, figure out how to avoid stomping right in the middle of an ant colony. I've had to. There have been a few times where I've had to stomp and then go rushing off and strip down because I stepped wrong and wasn't paying attention. So there's just, for me, that's something that I enjoy, and it kind of takes me away from some of the stress of life. And so I think that every man should have a hobby. For some men, when I was growing up, I knew a lot of guys that loved to work on cars. Right, that was their thing, and some of them even had, like, maybe old cars that they were restoring. Maybe they would take it to a show, whatever. I've known guys when I was younger, and I even got into it. I enjoyed loudspeakers, and so I would like try to build speakers, big ones. I'm talking about, like, 8-inch and 10-inch subwoofers, 12-inch subwoofers, um, and I would get into the calculations, and I would be like, all right, this is the kind of airflow that I need. And this is the amount of volume of air that I've got, blah, blah. And so I would try to work it all out. Again, same concept. You are trying to basically solve a problem and get to some sort of end result. Right. But that's the idea. So there are plenty of hobbies to get into. And I would encourage you as a man to get into them. This next one is kind of fun. This is the last one here that we've got. So this guy says, "Hello, gentlemen. The time has officially come, and it's buying my old lady a wedding ring time. I've got it narrowed down to 2 different rings. The rings are pricey, but she's worth it. For my married dads, how'd y'all propose? I have some ideas, but always open to suggestions." Well, I don't know that I'm going to give him a suggestion per se, but I'm going to tell you how I proposed to my wife, because I think the story is kind of funny. So we went on a trip to South Carolina along the beach. We rented a little condo for the weekend. And that was the weekend I was going to propose to my wife. So I went and I bought the ring. She didn't know about it. Like, she knew we had talked about getting married, so she kind of had an idea that it was in the future. So there we are, and I wanted to do it on the beach under the moonlight. That just sounded kind of romantic. I'm a romantic kind of guy. And so it gets dark, and I'm like, "Yeah, we should go walk on the beach and maybe take some pictures, of us on the beach under the moonlight." She's like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea." Well, the ring was in my backpack. I had to make sure that I kept it from her so that she didn't see it and spoil the surprise. But then the question was, how do I get that into my pocket so that we could go out on the beach and she doesn't know? So we're in this condo together. And so I'm like, all right, I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "let's get ready to go." And as soon as she walks out the door, I go, "Hold on, I got to go to the bathroom." I didn't have to go to the bathroom. And so then I went into the bathroom, so because the door was closing, she could see me. So I went into the bathroom, so it looked like I was actually doing what I said I was doing to do. And then as soon as the door closed, um, I went over to my backpack and I was trying to get it out, and she decided she got tired of waiting for me. So then she decides to come back in, and I hadn't quite grabbed it. And she's like, "Dude, what are you doing? You're taking so long. I'm tired of waiting on you." Right? She's giving me a hard time. And so then I'm like scrambling, and then she goes and sits on the couch. I think that's how it happened. Or maybe she sat on the couch before I came out of the bathroom. I think that might have been actually what happened. Story's a little fuzzy, but something along that line happened where she basically came back in, and now I need to try to grab the ring in the box out of my backpack while she's sitting there on the couch waiting for me to be ready to leave. So I'm like, crap. I'm like, what do I do? I've already tried to usher her out once, and that clearly didn't work. So now what do I do? So I reach over and I flip the switch, and I say something totally retarded. I said something like, "Ha ha, now you can't see." And I'm like making fun while I'm digging into my backpack to grab this wedding ring. And then I stuff it in my pocket. She's like, "Why are you being so goofy?" or something like that, you know? So then we get out, and I have it in my pocket. Of course, it's in a box that's like bigger than my pocket. So I'm making sure to keep her on one side. I think it was my left side, and then keep the box on my in my right pocket because I don't want her to bump up next to me and be like, "What's that in your pocket?" Right? Are you happy to see me, or is there a wedding ring in there? And so, I'm doing this, and we're walking, and then there's like other people walking on the beach. Now you might think, DL, you're a podcast, bro. You have no problem doing things in front of people. No, I can be very, very reserved when it comes to stuff like that. So I don't want anybody on the beach. And so we're walking, and I'm waiting to try to get to a point where there's like significant distance between us and anybody else. And it's not because I was afraid. I guess you could kind of say there was that like inherent fear of her saying no, even though we had already talked about marriage. So we uh we finally get to a point, and I'm like, all right, here's the moment. So let me stop there for a second and let me give you a little backstory. My wife is Indonesian. I wanted to propose in Indonesia or Indonesian, but I don't speak Indonesian. And if you say, "How do I propose to you in Indonesian?" that kind of tells this, like, that says, "Hey, this is happening." So I had to try to cobble it together. So in the days leading up to our vacation, I'm randomly asking, like, I'm trying to find ways so that it doesn't seem obvious. And I'm randomly asking, I'm like, "How would you say, would you?" And so I would make up like one part of a sentence. I would like, you know, "How would you say, would you like to go to the store?" And she might tell me, and I'll be like, "Oh, how's the would you part?" Right? I'm trying to like split this part out. The would you. It's not really how languages work, by the way. But I'm trying to cobble this together. And at the time, there wasn't AI for me to ask and get all the pronunciation correct, right? So like my resources for this are limited, um, and so I'm trying to piece this all together. And then I'm like, how would you say like marry in Indonesian? Blah blah blah. Like, but I'm doing this at different times, like not all at the same time. So it's not like we're walking in the store and I'm trying to cobble the whole sentence together. It's like, on this day, I ask about how do you say the word marry in Indonesian, and then in this way, on this day, I'm asking how would I say like would you, and on this day, I ask. So I'm piecing this all together. So back to the beach. We're on the beach, and I kneel down and I pull it out, and I had practiced this, and I don't remember the words that I used, but I said it in Indonesian. And then she like, that's the first thing she said. She was like, "You said it in Indonesian?" She was really surprised. Here's the funny part. Later, she did say yes, obviously, because we're married. Later, she tells me, "Well, you didn't really ask me. You told me to marry." Apparently, I got it all mixed up and I didn't do it right. So instead of saying, "Would you marry me?" I just said, "Marry me." So that's my proposal story to my wife. So guys, if try to think about your lady. If I were giving a guy advice, I wouldn't try to give him a specific and say, you should do this and this and this. Try to think about who your wife is or who your wife to be is, right? Who your fiance is, or well, I guess your girlfriend at that point. It would be a girlfriend, and then if she says yes, then it would be fiance, and then you move on to wife. So try to think about who is your girlfriend. What is it about her? Try to incorporate that into your proposal. And yeah, it's kind of goofy, right? But here's the thing, guys. You want to get married or not, right? And what would you do to get married? And throughout history, men have made fools of themselves for a woman. That's how you get a woman. You learn that, hey, like if this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, this is the person that's like when my mom was dying of cancer, and I know she wouldn't mind me telling the story, nor would my dad. Um, there was a point where he had to help her go to the bathroom. Follow my drift there. We're not going to get into the details, right? But you get the gist, right? Um, if you are planning to live with somebody for the rest of your life, if you're planning for this person to be with you thick and thin, right? Through trial and tribulation, maybe there's a point where one of you has to help the other person go to the bathroom, right? If that's the kind of relationship that you want, making a fool of yourself on the beach trying to propose to them in a foreign language that you don't know, this really shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, it is, but it shouldn't be in the grand scheme of things. You should be like, no, this is going to be one of the least the simplest times where I embarrass myself in front of this person, right? Because maybe you go out drinking and you have too much and you soil yourself, right? Whatever, and then your spouse has to help you out. Like these kind of things happen. I mean, that has not happened to me, but I'm just kind of using that as an example, right? Like you don't know. You don't know what future things lie ahead of for the both of you. You don't know what kind of embarrassment, but you know it's coming. So you might as well start off on a good foot and embarrass yourself in a funny way that's going to lead to a humorous conversation in the future. And you can be like, "Oh yeah, let me tell you about how I proposed and how I made a total fool of myself. But at the end of the day, we got married and we lived a long, happy life together." So hopefully that leaves everybody on a very positive note. Let me check out the comments here, and then we will head on out, and you guys can enjoy your weekend. So let's see what we got here. All right. Yes. That Liberty lady says, guys, got to dip out soon. Have a great weekend, Liberty Champions. See you Monday. Absolutely. I will see you Monday, as I will the rest of you. She has an event, a gun event with Spike Cohen. So if you're going down to the Libertarian Party of Florida's annual convention, Spike Cohen will be there. So say hello to him for me. I will not be present. I've just got other things. So have a good weekend, folks. That's my show for today. And for now, we are out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.